Get good. If the Souls community had a tattoo, those words would be scribed across its forehead. If you've followed Elden Ring, you've probably heard it, and it's very possible you've heard it as a dismissal to genuine criticism about the game. But you know where I'm hearing it even more often than from Souls fans? I'm hearing it in news articles, I'm hearing it in video essays, in reviews, I'm hearing it preemptively at the beginning of critiques, and I'm hearing it as a phrase often used to label the Souls community as a whole. This is who they are, a group of dismissive, elitist gatekeepers. They don't want anyone to play their precious Elden Ring, and if you do play it, you have to play it specifically in the way they want you to, or you didn't actually beat it, you didn't actually overcome anything. I heard it in Angry Joe's review, where they criticized the community harshly, despite praising the game. Everyone on the panel gave it a 10 out of 10. I heard it in Noah Caldwell-Gervais's giant 5-hour video essay on the Souls series, where he admits, hey, I didn't play these games based on their reputation. I didn't play these games based on how I perceived them from the outside, how I perceived the community. He saw it as a game filled with elitism and gatekeepers. He didn't think someone with his skill set had a chance based on what he'd heard. But he loved them. He was gushing with praise, he understood them, and described the feeling of playing them as so meaningful that all he wanted to do after he was done is to share his experience with the world. But that 5-hour long, extremely complimentary video essay was littered with mocking tones and insinuations towards the Souls community, mockingly throwing the "get good" mantra in their face every few minutes when he spoke of beating bosses using summons or other various tricks. He correctly pointed out all of the difficulty modifiers that exist within these games, like summoning and bonfire kindling, but he framed it from the standpoint of sticking it to the Souls community, like, haha, you don't want an easy mode? Guess what? These games already have one. And if you're like me, I think a lot of Souls fans would hear that and go, wait, that's what we've actually been trying to tell you. You literally played it and discovered for yourself that these systems exist, and yet the get good stigma is so blinding that instead of thinking, hey, maybe these players have been trying to tell us something, he framed it as if he had found a contradiction, as if he had found the stone that would shatter their glass houses, and spent the video reinforcing the exact same reputation and stereotype that he admitted is what kept him from playing in the first place. And I like that video. I watched the whole thing, and I highly recommend you watch it too, but just keep count of how many times he references the whole get good thing. And this idea is perpetuated in countless articles, tweets, reviews, commentaries, this idea that the Souls community is not welcoming, that they're hostile, and it hurts to see that. And so today, respectfully, I would like to offer another viewpoint, another way of looking at this fan base, because I can say with the utmost sincerity that I want you, whoever you are, to play Elden Ring, to play all of these games, and you should not view this community in the negative light it is often portrayed in, but rather as one of this game's greatest strengths. To start, I don't want to discount the experiences you may or may not have had. I don't want to pretend that everybody who plays these games is perfect and that this ideology is entirely absent. As with every community, it has its share of toxicity, obnoxiousness, just a handful of people that do behave this way and give everyone else a bad rap. But that is not the heart of this community, and is not indicative of what truly waits for you when you decide to give these games a genuine and honest fair shake. However, I do believe the community is extremely protective of these games, and that's a big distinction. It's not that they don't want you to play, they absolutely do, but they are going to be extremely sensitive to changes and suggestions from people who are just starting. You very well might be met with pushback if you're just starting the game, then start saying, oh, it should do this or it should do that. From Software's design is controversial, it has one difficulty, it is vague and obtuse, it is punishing, and there's a very strong desire to preserve these games and defend the merits of their design principles, and oftentimes this is labeled as gatekeeping. But there's a reason why there's a bit of hesitancy to listen to newer players, and it revolves around what is often referred to as the click moment. And I've thought long and hard about how I want to explain what that is, because I think it's quite revealing, so here it goes. Almost every game has a click moment, where its true self is revealed, where all of the window dressing, the surface level details, the graphics, the fancy animations, all of that is compartmentalized, and what you are left with is mechanics, the true game. When you're playing a new Assassin's Creed or whatever, you may come across a story. Oh, this person owes this gang some money and you have to protect them, and it raises your karma and gets you some crafting supplies or some shit. But at some point throughout your journey, that fades, and you begin to recognize patterns and the illusion dissipates. You see it for what it really is, a generic combat encounter, marked by a little question mark on your mini-map with a flimsy story stitched over the top of it to provide at least some level of context. Remember when you first played Gears of War? Remember how cool the chainsaw used to be? How awesome that was the first time you used it? Oh my god, the blood, the gore, that was insane, so cool! And now that very same chainsaw in your mind is holding B is an instant kill. That's the mechanic. And most games nowadays have click moments that represent the shattering of the game's illusion. That is when most games lose their allure. That is when most people figure out, hey, all of these question marks on the map are boring and don't lead to anything meaningful. That's when most people realize, hey, all of these weapons have a lot of spectacle to them and fancy effects, but these encounters are not actually fulfilling. It's when all the game's patterns and formulas become known to the player consciously or subconsciously, and you realize it's a facade. You realize just how meaningless and shallow the whole thing is, and most AAA games hide this not by actually making the game fulfilling at its core, but by covering it with as much fluff as possible, to try and keep it from clicking and becoming apparent for as long as possible. Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, that's not what happens. At their click moment, when you see them for what they are, when their true nature is revealed, when you see the design and the mechanics, that's when you fall in love with them. At the exact point where in most games you lose interest and you either rush through to finish the story or just put it down entirely, that's the moment you go, oh my god, Elden Ring is genius, Dark Souls is genius, etc. And everybody who has broken through that barrier and had these games click for them understand that. They know, hey, everybody on the outside, you don't know what this is yet. You're used to fluff. You're wondering why this game doesn't seem to have any of that, and it feels abrasive at first. It's like sandpaper instead. But that abrasion is necessary to the game's design, and once you realize that, well, then it clicks for you. And due to how meaningful and impactful these games are, and just how profound players find them to be, and because of how passionate these games make people, there is a very strong desire to push players towards that click moment. When someone new comes in, there is a desire to maybe overhelp, to backseat game for them. I know Angry Joe complained about this. If they see you're not enjoying yourself and you're complaining, well, there's a fear there. We're going to lose this person. They're frustrated and on the verge of giving up. And unfortunately, sometimes that comes across as, hey, you're not playing right. You're not having fun because you're not doing this. You're not leveling correctly. You're not using a build that engages with the mechanics enough. And all of that is misconstrued as fragility, as someone that's upset that you're not playing the real way. But I genuinely believe a lot of it comes from a place of good intentions. I think it comes from people who want you to like the game and are trying to get you to engage with the mechanics that will cause that click moment, that will cause you to love it as much as they do. And it's usually by pushing you towards the playstyle that caused the game to click for them. And I even think that's a big component as to why summoning and magic has this reputation for being frowned upon, because I think there's a lot of people that, again, have been profoundly impacted by the design of these games, and they're thinking, oh god, what if someone gets all the way to the end without experiencing all of these great emotions? What if they beat the game and think it's only all right? And no, I don't think that's good. I don't think that's healthy. I think if you're enjoying the game and it's clicked and you get it, you can do whatever you want to do. And we need to be better about embracing that, but I just have to believe that is actually where this mindset comes from. Far more than this truly fragile, insecure, I want to feel special, only really good players should be allowed to beat the game type of player that does unfortunately exist, but that's not what it's all about. That's not how most people in the Souls community are. We're protective. We look at the games through a different lens than somebody who is just starting off. We value the way they are designed because we understand the full extent of those design decisions. We understand how the difficulty, the obtuse nature of the design, the indirect storytelling, and the minimal handholding galvanizes the community. It creates a sense of accomplishment like very few games have ever been able to achieve. It is a game where you are led by your own intuition, and thus Elden Ring's sense of discovery is absolutely unmatched. I know it's hard to fathom. You know, what's the big deal? An easy mode's not going to hurt anybody. But imagine the perspective of someone who finds these games profound, and the perspective of someone who has been moved by these games now listening to someone say, hey, I didn't really play it, but I think you should change everything. Because if you've played these games to their click moment, you know it already has one. And we know that when you ask for an easy mode, it's because you don't know that. And you're trying to tell a bunch of passionate fans what the game should and shouldn't do when we are acutely aware that you don't understand what you're talking about. That's why Noah Caldwell-Gervais's video is so interesting, because he thought all of that, went in as a player with a self-proclaimed low skill level and slow reflexes, and he discovered, oh wait, there's difficulty modifiers here. You can summon NPCs to help you fight. You can request aid from other players who will join your game and take on bosses with you. You can use magic, which allows you to indirectly engage with enemies and put you out of harm's way. In Dark Souls 1, you can kindle bonfires, a brilliant idea which allows you to double or triple your healing at a bonfire, which gives you more charges every time you rest at it. So you can choose to kindle for certain areas that you struggle with, but it's not universally applied across the whole game. It is instead there when you need it. Elden Ring has a new mechanic called spirit summonings, where in addition to NPCs and other players, you can summon a plethora of collectible summons that will aid you in battle. But there's a difference between these modifiers and a bunch of suggestions that people on the outside looking in make. These modifiers are seamlessly integrated into the world. They are integrated into the sense of discovery and coincides with the sense of problem solving that the game promotes. And that's a design philosophy that a lot of Souls fans cherish and want to preserve. These games are not designed to be a gaming Everest that only elite turbo gamers can climb. They are designed to be a challenge that anyone can overcome. Anyone can find the tools they need to summit this game, and if you get stuck, the answer isn't actually get good, and it never has been. The solution is the community. FromSoft doesn't want us to lean on a toggle in the main menu, they want us to lean on each other. That's why we have summoning. That's why we can leave messages for each other and provide hints or point out secrets. That's why we can view the echoes of other players' failures through bloodstains so we can learn from their mistakes, not just our own. And that's why this game has one of the most passionate, active, and substantial communities in gaming. Because all of these systems and principles that were designed to bring people together worked. They worked. So sure, there are some bad apples. There are some turbo elite gamers among us, and there are quite a few well-intentioned people who honestly probably are just not good at expressing what they feel, but I can absolutely assure you that if you are intimidated by Elden Ring or the catalog of FromSoft games that came before, if you are worried about how people will treat you, don't be. Because in reality, this is one of the most passionate, collaborative, and helpful communities in gaming, and if you need help, someone will be there to answer the call. Like, Letmesoloher. For those unaware, a few weeks ago, a post on Reddit appeared about a player who would place their summon sign outside the arena for the hardest boss in Elden Ring, Malenia. His name was Letmesoloher, and if you summoned him into your game, he would flawlessly defeat the boss alone, with nothing but his 2 swords and a pot upon his head. So here we have a player using the summoning system to literally join your game and beat the boss for you. Oh well, we must have looked down on that. Every player who summoned didn't get good, they cheated, right? They had someone else beat it for them. That's not how this game is played. Oh, this must have been met with extreme backlash. One of the highest rated posts in the subreddit's history. In fact, 3 of the top 8 posts in the history of the Elden Ring subreddit are about Letmesoloher. People have made fan art. People sculpted 3D models of this player's character. News articles have been written about it. The YouTube video of him, which is less than a month old, has 2 million views, and other YouTubers have literally created lore videos about him. A player that comes into your game and helps you. And they are maybe the single most positively embraced player in the history of the Soulsbourne games. So if you were to interpret that, what are Souls fans really about? I think the answer is obvious. But you see, the point is that these are the types of interactions we want to encourage. These are the dynamic moments we know the game is capable of. The summoning system is so effective that you can literally summon people to beat the hardest challenge in the game for you. If FromSoft didn't have the reputation it has, this feature would win an accessibility award. It is easier than an easier mode, but because of the way it is implemented, it's memorable. It is integrated into the game itself, and it's special. Look at all of the interactions it has created. Look at how it has galvanized the community. Look at how these features bring people together in a way that a toggle in the main menu simply never could. And no, most people are not going to summon somebody to beat the game for them, but they could. And if they didn't do that, then they'd summon a friend to help them do it, or a stranger, or maybe they summon an NPC, or a spirit that they've collected, or maybe they don't summon at all. But no matter what you do, we hope you enjoy it. We hope you find it fulfilling, and we hope you are able to tap into the magic that has captivated so many of us, because I promise, we desperately want you to. And we may be defensive of certain things changing, but that's because we want it to change you. I and many others believe it has the power to. This is a special game made by people who make special games. And I am of the belief that if these games click for you, you won't think of them like other games. There's something more here. There's something deeply meaningful and profound, or at least as meaningful and profound as games can be. That's why you can find countless testimonials of how these experiences changed people, or helped people, or saved people. There's something special here, waiting for you beyond that moment, a moment that might change how you see the medium. And look, you may not believe games have the power to change your life. You may not take them that seriously. You might not think of them as having that potential. But if they could, if there was a game that could change the way you see things in the world, if there was a game that could change the way you feel, if there was a game that could be truly fulfilling to the soul, it would be a Souls game. Till next time.